Today we'll discuss bearing capacity of soils, and then you can see the topic of the discussion is, can we change the bearing capacity of soil? Many times we just listen that bearing capacity of soil of a particular site is so much. Then suppose that we are saying that particular the bearing capacity of particular site is say 12 tons per square meter. Is that correct? Or whether we can change the bearing capacity of that particular soil of that site. So let us discuss it. Bearing capacity of soil is defined as maximum load per unit area which the soil can sustain without rupture. But let us discuss about which soil we are talking about. And then the terms used with the bearing capacity are many, like ultimate bearing capacity, where we find out the ultimate load, ultimate bearing capacity with that, and net ultimate bearing capacity with the overburden which we do not consider, then net safe bearing capacity, net safe bearing capacity where we use factor of safety, then safe bearing pressure with respect to settlement, and then allowable bearing capacity where we find out the least of safe bearing capacity and safe bearing pressure, and we are recommending allowable bearing capacity of that particular site. Then let us discuss again. Bearing capacity of soil means we are talking about soil of the plot. Suppose a plot is of 2 acres. Are we discussing that what is the bearing capacity of the soil of that plot, or we are discussing what the bearing capacity of soil of that building site? Suppose there are 4 buildings. Are we saying that of soil of particular building site, or we are talking about the soil below the footing? In general, out of 3 if we are discussing, then we are talking about soil below the footing. Now below the footing also, which soil we are discussing? Soil below the footing, and soil of what depth, that is important. And we know from the soil mechanics or geotechnical engineering that you see soil when we consider, then we consider the pressure bulb, and the depth of the pressure bulb is 1.5 to 2 B, where B is the width of the foundation. So we consider normally when we analyze the bearing capacity of the mid height of the pressure bulb or the loading which is coming here, though the effect of the pressure of the foundation is up to the 1.5 or 2 P below the depth of below the level of the footing. So if we see here that in this pressure bulb, the density of upper layer may be different. Density at, say, if we see below depth, then say at 0.5 B depth, density may be different. 0.1 B it may be different. 1.5 B it may be different, and at 2 B depth it may be different. Then similarly, cohesion value may be different at different depths. Friction value also may be different, and the water table may also be different at different level, or may be same. So which density we are considering? If we change the density, then certainly the bearing capacity of the soil will be changing. Similarly, if cohesion or friction value is changing, then also bearing capacity will be changing. It means that the bearing capacity of soil at different depth in the pressure bulb itself may vary. So one thing is certain, that depth will vary with B, that is the width of the foundation. So this B, suppose isolated footing of 1.5 meter is there, then if we are considering 1.5 B, then 1.5 into 1.5, that will be the depth where we are to find out the properties of the soil. Similarly, if suppose the width of the isolated footing is 2 meters, then it will be up to 3 meters soil, and if it is a combined footing and the width is say 4 meters, that will be for 6 meter soil parameters, and if it is raft footing and the width is 10 meters, then it will be for 15 meter. So in general, these parameters will be different, so bearing capacity will be different. It means the bearing capacity of same soil, same building site will be different if we are changing the type of footing. So that is important. So soil will vary with the type of footing. So also the bearing capacity of soil will vary with type of footing. Hence, bearing capacity of soil may vary with depth of footing due to varying soil properties, that is density, cohesion and friction value in itself. And since depth of influence varies with width of footing, so SBC may vary indirectly due to width also and type of footing also. So these three parameters are there where the bearing capacity of soil will vary according to width, depth and type of footing. Then if we consider design calculations, then SBC depends upon factors like depth of footing, width of footing, water table, density of soil and shear strength parameter, that is C and phi. These parameters will vary with depth, and depth will vary with width of the foundation and type of footing. So again, it's not only the parameters within the depth, but also if we change the depth of footing, suppose we are changing a depth from 1.5 meter below ground level to 2 meter below ground level, then also this bearing capacity will change. And we have discussed that according to width also it is changing, and then water table may be changing, so also bearing capacity will change, and then density of soil will normally vary along with the depth. So if depth is increasing, then density may also increase, so that also bearing capacity will be different. And then shear strength parameters will also be different as per the depth. So then bearing capacity will be different. So these parameters are not fixed for a particular building site or building below the footing also. So the bearing capacity will change with these parameters. So we can say that bearing capacity will vary with size and type of footing, will vary with depth of footing. Thus SBC is not a fixed term even for same site and same plot, and at the same building site I am saying that this SBC is not same. The SBC will vary according to type of footing and depth of footing. So and then SBC of same type of soil below a footing will vary according to type of footing. So we should remember that bearing capacity of soil of any site cannot have a fixed value. If we are saying that SBC of that particular site is say 12 tons per square meter, that is not a correct statement. SBC will only have a fixed value for a particular depth and for a particular width for a particular type of footing. So whenever we are saying SBC is 12 tons per square meter, then this might have been calculated for say at 1.5 meter depth and for say 1.5 meter width for isolated footing. Even for same depth, 1.5 meter depth for raft footing, the bearing capacity will be different. Even for same depth, say 1.5 meter depth for continuous footing or for strip footing or for combined footing, bearing capacity will be different. Therefore, bearing capacity can be changed by changing width, depth and type of footing. Even suppose for same isolated footing and same width say 2 meter, if we are changing depth say from 1.2 meter to 1.5 meter, then also bearing capacity will change. So it is important that whenever we, as a designer, we want some higher bearing capacity of same side, we can refer the geotech report to the consultant for giving bearing capacity for higher bearing capacity, and then the soil consultant will carry out the calculation, and accordingly he will change the depth or width of the footing or type of footing, and he will suggest higher bearing capacity. And similarly, suppose we are there and somebody is saying bearing capacity of soil of that particular site is so much, then it should not be said like this, because that statement is not correct. Whenever we say that bearing capacity of soil is, say, a particular value, then we should correlate with depth and width of the footing and also for type of footing. Then the statement will be correct. Well, thanks. I am KM Soni, retired CPWD. Thanks a lot.